Hey guys, tonight we're taking a trip back to a world of towering stone walls, flickering torchlight, and some of the most thankless jobs you can imagine. Picture yourself trudging across the cold, drafty halls of a medieval castle, your thin woolen tunic already soaked with sweat and who knows what else. You're armed with nothing but a rag, a bucket, and the faint hope that no one notices how grimy your corner of the world has become. Welcome to the castle cleaning crew, and trust me, you probably won't survive this without a serious backache and a new appreciation for modern plumbing. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know where you're tuning in from and what time it is. I always love seeing how far this sleepy little history trip reaches. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You start your day just as the sun crawls over the ramparts, already squinting at the pale light slanting through arrow-slit windows. In the damp gloom, you find yourself elbow deep in medieval filth. Your job scrubbing floors, hauling away chamber pots, wiping down greasy tables, anything to keep this stone fortress vaguely habitable. The stone floors are always cold, no matter how many rushes you lay down, or how many fires burn in distant hearths. And those rushes, they trap more dirt and half-eaten food than they ever clean up, making your job an endless cycle of brushing and gagging. Historians still argue whether medieval castles had formal sanitation protocols, or if the cleaning routine was purely up to the good humour of the lady of the house. Either way, you're stuck with the worst of it. Every morning you kneel on your aching knees, scrubbing away the remains of last night's feast. Duck bones, spilled wine, and the occasional clump of something unidentifiable. Maybe it's better not to know. Your nose wrinkles at the thick, sour scent of wet wool and stale ale. And let's not forget the ever-present aroma of the latrines wafting down the hallways. You hold your breath as you scoop out chamber pots, each one a personal insult to your sense of smell. Sure, you might joke to yourself that it's just medieval aromatherapy, but the stench is very real. In the background, you hear the rhythmic creak of the well bucket pulley, a constant reminder that water doesn't just flow from a tap here. You have to fetch every bucket yourself, no easy task, when you're also expected to keep the rushes sweet-smelling with a sprinkling of rosemary or sweet hay. Of course rosemary's expensive, so most days it's just musty. Rushes damp with last night's ale. Some days you find yourself cleaning up after the Lord's dogs who roam freely in the Great Hall, their muddy paw prints adding yet another layer of grime to your world. A quick footnote here. Medieval dogs were not the pampered fluffballs we know today. They were big, often feral, and perfectly happy to do their business wherever they pleased. Lucky you. By midday your back's already screaming, but there's no time to rest. A noble woman's silk train has just dragged in half the stableyard's dirt, and the steward is coming to check the work. You do your best, your rag a pathetic weapon against centuries of stone dust. It's easy to feel invisible here. Your hands are red and raw, but no one notices unless you miss a spot. A quirky tidbit for you: in some places castle cleaners used bundles of herbs, lavender, mint, even wormwood to mask the smell of the rushes and keep the fleas at bay. It worked. Sort of. The herbs might have given the place a hint of a spa vibe, but there was no spa day in sight for you. Your co-workers trade half jokes and half groans, sharing stories about the latest feast leftovers, or who got stuck cleaning the guardrobe chutes, those medieval poop chutes that carried waste down the castle walls. You're never sure if it's better to be the one scrubbing the floors or the one fishing out refuse from those ancient stone tubes. As the afternoon fades into a smoky dusk, you keep moving, slopping water scrubbing, and pretending not to mind the way your fingers have gone numb. The worst part is, no matter how hard you scrub, you're never really done. Medieval castles were drafty, leaky, and perpetually dusty. You'll be back here tomorrow chasing the same dirt, scrubbing away at the same ancient stones that refuse to gleam. But tonight you can let it all fade into a gentle hum, the clink of buckets, the soft slap of wet cloth on stone, the muffled laughter of fellow cleaners in the gloom. You're part of the castle's hidden heartbeat, the quiet pulse that keeps the place from descending into a true medieval horror show. You're still here, aren't you, good? Because next up is the kitchen, a place of warmth, but also of relentless work that could break even the most determined soul. You leave the damp corridors of the cleaning crew behind, stepping through the heavy oak doors into the heart of the castle's culinary chaos. The kitchen is a cavernous, smoky cave, huge hearths, belching black smoke, massive iron pots boiling away, and the constant hiss and pop of fat spitting on the fire. The kitchen drudges, maybe that's you tonight, move like shadows in the half-light, your tunic already streaked with grease and sweat. You have no time to savour the sense of roasting meat and baking bread. You're too busy turning the spit or hauling logs for the fires. That sweet, savoury perfume, it's just another backdrop to the endless tasks at hand. Historians still argue whether medieval cooks were respected artisans or just slightly elevated servants. One thing's for sure, the lowliest of the kitchen crew, the scullions and turnspit boys, were anything but respected. You as one of them might find yourself responsible for cleaning cauldrons so large you could practically curl up inside them. And if you're unlucky enough to be the turnspit boy, you'll spend hours cranking the handle that keeps the roast turning over the flames. Your arms ache, your shoulders burn, and there's no let up until the meat is done and dinner is served. You glance over your shoulder at the head cook. He's the master of this smoky kingdom, barking orders like a general. His voice booms through the haze. More wood for the fire. Watch that pot, it's about to boil over. You don't dare look him in the eye. You're too busy skimming fat from the broth, or plucking stray feathers from a half-scorched goose. One mistake, and you'll feel the sting of a wooden spoon across your knuckles. No hard feelings, it's just how the kitchen works. But even as you slave over pots and pans, there's a strange beauty in it. The rhythm of the chopping block thump, 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 the hiss of the spit turning, the warm glow of firelight playing off copper pots, each one blackened from decades of use. A little reminder, medieval kitchens didn't have chimneys for much of the Middle Ages. All that smoke, it had nowhere to go but up, swirling around your head, stinging your eyes and clinging to your hair. You'll smell like smoked meat for days. Here's a fringe tidbit to keep you entertained. Some cooks believed that singing to the stew would make it taste better, like a medieval kitchen playlist, if you will. Maybe tonight you hum a tune under your breath, hoping it might calm the cook's temper, or keep your spirits up. Who knows? Maybe the peasants out in the fields will swear they can taste the music in every bite. Outside, the noble family feasts at the high table, oblivious to the fact that you're here half blind with fatigue, scalded by boiling fat and half crazed from the heat. You're the ghost behind their meal, your burned fingers and sweat-soaked tunic hidden from their delicate noses and fancy goblets. They might pause to toast the skill of the cook, but they'll never know your name. When the feast is finally over, you're not done. There's the aftermath to face greasy platters, bones gnawed clean by noble teeth and bread crusts ground into the rushes. You scrape plates with a wooden spatula, dunking them in barrels of cloudy water that you can't help but notice are turning an alarming shade of brown. The kitchen doesn't sleep, not while the castle breathes. There's always a pot to scrub a hearth to stoke, and a fresh line of orders for tomorrow's meal. You trade half-hearted jokes with the other drudges. Someone found a mouse cooked into the porridge once, and now it's the kitchen's running gag. You laugh because it's better than crying. Your hands are so raw they crack with every scrub of the pot, and you know you'll dream of the kitchen's endless noise tonight. You find a moment's pause near the hearth, the flames painting your face in flickering gold. You lean close just for a second to let the warmth chase away the cold of the dawn you know is coming too soon. That warmth is fleeting though. You're already on to the next pot, the next task, the next night of toil that will blur into the one before and the one after. It's not glamorous, but you're part of the heartbeat of this castle, the pulse that keeps the great hall roaring with laughter and life. You're the silent architect of every meal, the unsung hero whose cracked hands and burned arms fuel the feasts of knights and ladies. You may be half forgotten by history, but without you those grand banquets would be little more than cold bread and watery ale. So as you settle deeper into your blankets tonight, maybe with a belly that's still half empty and arms that feel twice their weight, take a moment to remember the kitchen drudges of old. Their world was fire and sweat and endless toil. Yours tonight is just a story, a gentle hum to carry you to sleep. You thought the kitchen was rough. Wait until you see the life of the castle's laundry slaves. Yes, laundry in a medieval fortress was no less of an endless soul-draining slog. You step out into the castle courtyard, the damp morning mist clinging to your hair, as you haul yet another basket of soiled linens. The air is heavy with the stink of stale sweat mildew, and that indefinable smell of old stone that seems to live in every castle wall. You're not just washing clothes. You're washing away the daily grime of 100 people who couldn't care less about your back-breaking work. Tunics stained with mutton grease, sheets soaked in who knows what, and undergarments that you try not to think too much about. It's your job to scrub, beat, rinse, and somehow make them wearable again. Historians still argue whether castle laundries were more centralised, or if noble ladies kept their own washing slaves tucked away in separate chambers. Either way, your life is a daily battle against stains that don't know how to quit. You start with lye soap, homemade and harsh enough to leave your knuckles raw and red. It smells like wood ash and regret, and it bites at your skin in the cold dawn air. The washtub is your kingdom, though there's no glory in it. You bend and scrub, pounding clothes against worn wooden washboards or beating them with paddles until your shoulders scream. There's no delicate rinse cycle here, just the slap of wet cloth, the chill of water that seeps into your bones, and the endless ache of muscles that never seem to recover. A quirky tidbit to keep in mind: some medieval laundresses swore by using fermented urine. Yes, you heard that right, to whiten the linen. It was a powerful cleaning agent, and they called it chamber lye. The ammonia did wonders for the cloth, even if it left your hands smelling less than fresh. Makes your modern detergent seem like a luxury, doesn't it? You glance around at your fellow washers' faces half hidden in steam rising from the copper cauldrons of hot water. You trade weary smiles as you heft another basket, the contents heavy and dripping. The weight of it digs into your shoulders, a constant reminder of just how endless this work truly is. Your only break is when you haul the clean linen outside to the drying fields, or if you're lucky, to the castle's drying loft. Of course, lucky is relative. The loft is drafty and full of dust, and you have to keep constant watch for sneaky birds or rats that might decide your freshly laundered linens make a perfect nest. You're the silent sentry of cleanliness, standing guard over sheets and shirts that no one else notices until they're dirty again. The wind snatches at your wet skirts, cold and biting, and you sigh as you stretch another sheet across the line. Your arms feel like lead, your back is a knot of pain, but you keep going because there's no end to the laundry. Day after day, basket after basket, you rinse and scrub until you feel like your bones themselves might be squeaky clean. A brief moment of levity in all this toil. Sometimes if you're washing the Lord's linens, you might find a hidden love note or an embroidered secret stitched into the hem of a lady's shift. A reminder that even in this world of dirt and labour, there's a little spark of mischief and romance. It's almost enough to make you smile almost. When the sun begins to set, you're still at it, your hands red and raw, your face flushed with the heat of the cauldrons. The castle laundry never sleeps, not while there's a single smudge to scrub out. And at night, As you finally collapse onto your straw pallet, your dreams are haunted by the slap of wet cloth and the hiss of boiling water. Remember that there's no washing machine here, no buttons to push, no gentle cycle. Just you, the tub, and the never-ending tide of laundry that keeps this castle from sinking into filth. You're not celebrated or sung about in ballads, but without you the castle's elegance would be nothing but a thin disguise over a world of filth. So tonight, as you drift off to sleep, spare a thought for the medieval laundresses, those unseen, unsung workers who scrubbed and toiled so that the lords and ladies could swish about in silks and velvets, blissfully unaware of the mountain of labour that kept them clean. You might think laundry is the bottom of the medieval pecking order, but hold on to your stomach, because next up are the castle's gong farmers. Yes, you're about to dive figuratively, I promise, into the most thankless, nose-wrinkling job in any medieval fortress. You thought your worst Monday was bad, imagine spending it knee-deep in medieval waste. The term gong doesn't sound so bad, but here it's a polite word for human waste buckets of it, flowing from guard-robes perched high above the castle walls. Your job, shovel it out, cart it away, and hope that your sense of smell recovers. Eventually. Gong farmers were often paid surprisingly well. After all, no one else wanted to do it, but the price was your dignity, and maybe your lungs. Historians still argue whether these workers had any choice at all, or whether it was a punishment handed down to the poorest, the most desperate, or the unlucky debtors who fell behind. You tonight are one of them, and your day starts before dawn when the castle is still silent save for the occasional groan of timber and the soft rustle of rats in the walls. You tie a rag around your nose, a pitiful defence, and grab your shovel. The air is damp, the smell rising in slow, sulphurous waves. It clings to your clothes, your skin, your very soul. Every step echoes off the cold, wet stones as you descend into the castle's hidden channels and secret tunnels, where the waste waits like a malevolent river. A quirky tidbit to keep you entertained, medieval gong farmers believed that a strong onion or garlic diet could protect them from the worst of the smells. So you chew on a clove of garlic, trying to convince yourself that it's working. Spoiler alert, it's not. Your nose still rebels with every breath. You heave your shovel into the muck, feeling the weight of it drag at your arms. There's no gentle trickle here, this is the thick, sour stew of medieval life, and you're the only line of defence between the castle and a serious health crisis. No one thanks you, but without you, disease would spread faster than gossip in the Great Hall. The job doesn't end with just removing the waste. You're expected to cart it out of the castle, sometimes through secret postern gates built into the walls for just this purpose. You trudge along in the darkness, your cart's wooden wheels creaking on the uneven stones. And as the first rays of dawn light the castle towers, you're already sweating under the weight of your thankless cargo. Sometimes you have to dump the waste into cesspits, deep holes dug outside the castle walls. Other times you might be told to scatter it in the fields as a grim sort of fertilizer. Yes, medieval recycling at its finest. Let's just say the phrase waste not want not had a very literal meaning back then. You pause for a moment to wipe your brow, glancing up at the battlements. High above, the lords and ladies sip wine and tell tales of chivalry. They'll never know your name, never smell what you smell, never understand that you're the invisible barrier between their world of feasts and the creeping threat of pestilence. Historians still puzzle over the actual impact of gong farmers on medieval public health. Some say they were the unsung heroes who kept the plague at bay, while others argue that it was a losing battle against the tide of filth. Either way, tonight you're the silent sentinel of sanitation, a one-man army against the river of waste. You trade knowing looks with your fellow workers, tired eyes, cracked hands, a gallows humour that keeps you sane. There's a sort of camaraderie here, a bond formed in the darkest of tunnels. You might even share a joke about who found the worst surprise in the cesspit this week. It's a small comfort in a job that never really ends. As the day fades, you haul your last cart out to the fields, the air cool and still around you. The smell never quite leaves your nose even when you wash in the stream later, scrubbing your skin raw. It seeps into your dreams, your memories, a constant reminder of the world you inhabit. So tonight, as you settle into sleep, let the steady rhythm of the shovel and the creak of the cart fade into the soft hum of your breath. You're part of the hidden machinery of the medieval world, the thankless labour that kept the castle's splendour from rotting from the inside out. Close your eyes and let the darkness of the tunnels drift away into something softer, until tomorrow when the muck returns and you face it all again. You might think that after scrubbing floors and hauling waste things couldn't get any more thankless, but the castle rat catchers would beg to differ if they had the time. You slip into their world tonight, a place of scuttling shadows and tiny claws, where every movement carries the quiet threat of plague and ruin. You start before the sun has even dared to rise, slipping through the castle's half-lit corridors with a burlap sack slung over your shoulder. In your hand is your weapon of choice, maybe a simple stick, a battered club, or if you're lucky, a cat or two on loan from the kitchen. There's no glamour in this hunt. It's you against the rats, and the rats usually have the upper hand. Historians still argue whether rat catchers were paid in coin or in kind, sometimes a handful of ale, sometimes a crust of bread. Either way, you're no guest at the high table. You're the shadowy figure who keeps the castle's larders from becoming a rat's paradise. Your only companions are the hiss of straw underfoot and the soft squeak of rodents in the dark. A quirky tidbit to amuse your tired mind, some rat catchers believed that whistling a certain tune could lull the rats into a daze, making them easier to catch. You try it, just a thin, wavering whistle that echoes off the stone walls. Maybe it works, or maybe the rats just think you're crazy. Either way, you keep whistling. You move softly, listening for the telltale rustle of tiny feet. You see a flicker of movement near the granary and your heart quickens. You pounce your hand, snapping out, and with a practiced flick you have another rat in the bag. It's a small victory, but every rat caught is a mouth that won't steal tomorrow's bread or spread tomorrow's plague. The castle never stops feasting, and where there's food, there are rats. You know their favourite haunts, the warm dark corners of the kitchens, the rush-strewn floors of the great hall, even the buttery where barrels of ale wait to be tapped. The rats are clever, slipping between floorboards and into walls, always one step ahead of your tired feet. You share knowing glances with the other catchers, tired wary souls who understand that their work is never really done. You joke about the rat kings, those twisted knots of rats stuck together by their tails, that some swear they've seen in the deepest corners of the castle. Historians still debate whether rat kings are real or just the fevered imaginings of overworked rat catchers. You're not sure. You've seen enough to believe anything. By midday you're filthy, your tunic stained with the sweat of the hunt and the faint musky reek of your quarry. You pause in the kitchens for a crust of bread, your stomach growling as you watch the cook's boys scurry past, eyes wide at the sight of your bulging sack. They know what's in there, and they give you a wide berth. The sun sinks low and the rats grow bolder. In the flickering torchlight you feel like a ghost slipping from shadow to shadow, your sack growing heavy with every snatch and grab. You try not to think about the diseases that might be clinging to the rats' sleek coats, the tiny fleas that could carry death itself. There's no glory here, just the quiet satisfaction of a job that no one else wants. When the night finally claims the castle, you empty your sack outside the walls, dumping the rats into the darkness beyond. You watch them skitter away, a silent army retreating into the night. You wipe your hands on your tunic, though the smell lingers, a sour tang that no amount of scrubbing will ever fully erase. You trudge back through the castle gates, the moon a pale glow above the towers. The halls are quiet now, the lords and ladies sleeping soundly in their feather beds, blissfully unaware of the tiny war you've waged in the shadows. Without you, the castle's splendour would be nothing but a feast for vermin. So tonight, as you lay your head down, let the scurrying fade to nothing. Let the squeak of tiny feet dissolve into the soft hush of your breath. The rats will be back tomorrow, but tonight you've earned your rest. By now you're probably realizing that every corner of a medieval castle had its own brand of misery. But tonight you're headed to the stables, a place that might seem romantic in the daylight with glossy horses and soft hay, but trust me, the stable hands have their own heavy burdens to bear. You start your day as the first pale light of dawn creeps over the castle walls, your breath clouding in the crisp morning air. You're already moving, pushing open the heavy wooden doors of the stable, and stepping into a world of snorts, whinnies, and the unmistakable smell of horse. The scent is a mix of sweet hay sweat and the pungent reek of manure that seeps into your clothes and refuses to let go. Historians still argue whether medieval stables were more advanced than peasant barns, or if they were just glorified sheds for the nobility's prized mounts. But you're not here for debates. You're here because someone has to muck out the stalls, brush down the horses and keep them fed and watered no matter how your back protests. You start with a pitchfork in hand, lifting forkful after forkful of soiled straw, the weight of it making your shoulders burn. The stable is dark and damp, the air heavy with the sighs of horses shifting restlessly in their stalls. Your feet slip in the wet straw and you curse under your breath, though you know better than to raise your voice. Horses spook easily, and an angry horse is just another layer of trouble you don't need. A quirky tidbit to brighten this grim work, some medieval stables had resident cats there, not for companionship, but as relentless mouse hunters. You keep an eye out for one tonight, maybe a scruffy tabby who weaves between the hay bales tail high and eyes bright. She's your silent partner in the war against vermin. You move from stall to stall, your arms aching as you brush each horse's coat until it gleams in the flickering torchlight. These aren't just farm animals, they're the pride of the castle, bred for war, for the hunt for show. Their glossy coats and high spirits hide a strength that you respect, even if they nearly step on your toes more than once. As you work, you murmur soft words to the horses, gentle nonsense that calms them, even if it does nothing for your own exhaustion. You know the weight of these animals, the power in their broad chests and muscular flanks. One careless step could break a bone or crush a foot, but you keep moving careful and quiet because that's the job. By midday your tunic is stained with sweat and straw, and your stomach growls with hunger. You snatch a crust of bread from your satchel and chew as you work your mind half lost in the rhythm of pitch, toss and sweep. The horses snort and nuzzle at you, their warm breath a small comfort in the chill of the stone stable walls. You pause for a moment, leaning on your pitchfork, and glance outside. The sun is bright on the castle walls, but here in the stable, it's always half-shadowed, the smell of hay and sweat forever clinging to your skin. Historians still debate whether stable hands lived better than other lowly workers. After all, they were close to the noble horses, a place of trust. But when your back is bent and your knuckles are raw, it doesn't feel much like a privilege. As the day slips toward evening, you're still at it, hauling water buckets, checking hooves for stones, and keeping watch for signs of colic or lameness that could spell disaster. The horses are your charge, and you take that seriously even if no one else ever says thank you. When the sun finally sets, you stand in the doorway of the stable, your shoulders aching, and your hands cracked from cold water and endless labour. The horses shift and snort in the half-light, their coats shining in the last glow of the day. You know you'll be back before dawn tomorrow, ready to start again, because in the medieval castle the work never ends. So tonight, as you settle into your straw bed, let the steady rhythm of hoofbeats and the soft rustle of hay soothe you to sleep. Let the warmth of the horse's breath linger in your dreams, a gentle echo of a day's honest work, and tomorrow when the castle wakes, you'll be there, pitchfork in hand, ready to care for the noble beasts that carry its lords to glory. The stable might be warm with horses, but tonight you're going somewhere colder. more silent where the only company is the flickering glow of candlelight. You step quietly into the scriptorium, the small draughty room where the castle's scribes and clerks bend over their work quills, scratching softly on parchment that never seems to end. The scriptorium is a place of near-sacred silence, broken only by the gentle crackle of the fire and the rhythmic rustle of parchment. You slip into a seat at a narrow wooden desk, the surface worn smooth by years of labour. Your quill is sharpened to a deadly point, and the ink pot at your elbow is already half empty. There's no time to pause, words must be copied, lists must be kept, and the castle's endless paperwork demands its due. Historians still argue whether these scribes were true scholars or simply servants with good handwriting. But as you bend over your work, your breath held in the cold air, you know that it hardly matters. The castle's life flows through these pages, orders, decrees, inventories of everything from barrels of salted fish to bolts of cloth, and you're the silent chronicler who keeps it all in line. Your fingers ache from the cold and from the tight grip on the quill. Ink smudges stain your fingertips, a permanent badge of your station. You pause to warm your hands over the flickering candle, watching the small flame dance and gutter in the draught that slips through the cracks in the stone walls. A quirky tidbit to amuse your tired mind, some medieval scribes would chew on the ends of their quills to soften them, leaving little tooth marks in the wood. You catch yourself doing it now, an absent nibble that's half habit, half an attempt to keep your mind from wandering. You glance at the pile of parchment that still waits for you, each sheet a small mountain of words. Your eyes blur from the tiny letters and you blink hard, trying to keep the lines from dancing across the page. It's a delicate, thankless task, this copying. One mistake, a single misplaced letter, and the entire meaning could change. You murmur softly to yourself, checking each line twice, then 3 times the words whispering in the silence. Outside the castle bustles with noise boots clattering on stone dogs barking in the yard, but here time seems to slow. The quiet is absolute, the kind that wraps around you, until the world outside feels like a distant dream. You're here now, ink-stained and half-frozen, but part of something that will outlast even the coldest winter night. By midday your back is hunched and your neck aches from craning over the desk. You flex your fingers cramped from hours of careful lettering and steal a glance at the clerk beside you. His head bent, his breath fogging in the chill. You share a tired smile, a silent camaraderie in the endless careful labour. Historians still puzzle over how many clerks worked in these scriptoriums, how many hands it took to keep a castle's records straight. Some say it was just a handful of men trusted by the Lord and paid in room and board. Others imagine a small army of scribes, each one lost in the quiet world of ink and paper. You don't have time to wonder. You dip your quill again, the scratch of the nib a steady heartbeat in the cold. Outside, the world roars on tournaments, feasts, hunts, but here there is only the patient, silent labour that no one sees until the work is done. As evening falls, you stretch your aching back and blow gently on the fresh ink, watching it shimmer in the candlelight. Your work is invisible to most. No one will sing songs about the clerk who kept the grain stores counted, or the scribe who copied out a knight's oath. But without you, the castle would be chaos, a jumble of debts and disputes that no sword could solve. So tonight, as you close your tired eyes, let the scratch of the quill fade into a soft, steady whisper. Let the flicker of candlelight dance behind your eyelids, a gentle glow in the dark. And tomorrow, when the world wakes to another day of feasts and battles, you'll be back here ready to put it all into words. The scriptorium was a haven of quiet labour, but tonight you're heading back to the hustle, because someone's got to keep the castle's lifeblood flowing. Picture yourself with a yoke of buckets balanced across your shoulders, each step a careful negotiation on the narrow stone stairs. You're one of the castle's water carriers, And trust me, this is no easy stroll to the well. You rise before the sun, already shivering in the pre-dawn gloom, your breath fogging in the icy air. Your wooden buckets clank softly, a steady rhythm that echoes through the echoing halls. Water doesn't flow from pipes. Here it must be fetched from the well or stream, and carried up one heavy step at a time. You're this silent link in the chain that keeps the kitchens boiling, the lords bathing, the servants drinking. Historians still argue whether castles relied more on nearby rivers or deep wells sunk into the rock. Some say the wells were marvels of engineering. Others think they were death traps waiting to collapse. You don't have the luxury to care about the debate. You only know the weight of water, how it sloshes against the sides of the buckets and threatens to drown your tired arms with every swaying step. A quirky tidbit to keep your spirits up: some water carriers swore that talking to the well, offering it a quick good morning or a soft song, could keep it sweet and free of bad luck. So tonight, maybe you whisper a few words into the dark mouth of the well, your voice trembling like the water below. You lower the bucket, the rope rough in your hands, and feel the cold splash as it hits the surface. You haul it up the bucket, heavy with the chill of earth and iron, and you brace your legs for the climb back up. Step by careful step, you inch your way up the winding stairs, your shoulders screaming with every jolt. The castle wakes slowly around you. Cooks stoking fires, maids bustling with fresh rushes, but your world is the steady, endless loop from well to hearth, well to hall. You see the same faces each morning, but no one really sees you. You're the quiet servant with the yoke of buckets, the figure slipping past the doorway just as the Lord's feast begins. Your tunic is always damp, the chill seeping into your bones, but you don't stop. Water is life, and without it the castle grinds to a halt. The kitchens would fall silent, the laundry would pile up, the noble baths would stand empty and cold. You're the hidden pulse of the castle, each drop you carry a promise that life goes on. You share a nod with the other water carriers, a small gesture that says, yes, this is endless, but we'll keep going. You joke about the time old Meg fell asleep at the well and nearly dropped a bucket into its depths, or about the castle cat that tried to fish in the well and came up with nothing but wet whiskers. Small moments of laughter in a job that never really ends. Historians still puzzle over how these carriers managed in winter when the well iced over and the stream ran sluggish under its thin shell of ice. You know the answer: you chipped at the ice until your hands were raw, because the castle needed water and no one else would bring it. As the day wears on, your shoulders ache and the wooden yoke bites into your skin. You pause to rest your back pressed against the cold stone and watch the steam rise from the kitchens as another cauldron of soup boils away. You're not in the great hall feasting, but in your own quiet way. You're part of the feast. Each mouthful, each steaming bowl owes a little of itself to you. When evening comes and the castle begins to quiet, you make one last trip to the well. You stand for a moment peering into its dark depths and wonder how many others have stood here before you. The water ripples with the torchlight, soft and dark as a secret. You fill your bucket one last time and begin the climb, your steps sure even in the half-light. So tonight, as you settle into your bed, arms heavy back aching, let the memory of cool water and the quiet echo of the well lull you to sleep. Let the steady drip of water fade into the soft hush of your breath. And tomorrow, when the castle wakes thirsty again, you'll be there ready to shoulder the weight of life once more. Tonight you find yourself where warmth and danger meet, where the glow of the hearth holds back the cold of the stone halls. You're the castle's fire tender, a silent figure whose job never ends. The fires must be fed, watched and coaxed into life again and again, or the castle will be nothing more than a damp, freezing tomb. You start in the early hours, your breath a silver ghost in the dark corridors. The castle's great hearths have banked down overnight embers glowing like the last stars of a dying night. You kneel close, the heat kissing your face as you coax the coals back to life with a bundle of kindling and your careful breath. It's a quiet moment, almost reverent, but there's no time to linger. Historians still argue how many fireplaces a medieval castle might have had. Some say a grand hall might boast a dozen small fires, while others believe most rooms went cold for want of fuel. You don't have time to argue. You only know that the fires are everything. They chase away the damp that creeps into your bones. They keep the Lord's feast warm, and they hold back the night's deep chill. A quirky tidbit to warm your spirits: some castle servants believed that whistling while you built the fire would bring good luck, helping the flames to catch quickly. So tonight, maybe you hum a quiet tune under your breath, the melody mingling with the crackle of the kindling as it flares to life. Your day is a slow dance with wood and flame. You haul logs from the woodshed, your arms straining under their weight. You feed the fires with care, watching the blaze leap higher, sending sparks dancing like fireflies in the dim light. You tend each hearth like a precious thing because you know what it means to go without. The great hall is the heart of the castle, and its fire is your masterpiece. You rake the coals, adding logs one by one, each one a promise that the cold will not claim the laughter and music of the night. The fire's warmth seeps into your skin, and for a moment you almost forget the aching weight of the logs and the chill of the stone under your feet. But the fires demand constant vigilance. Turn your back for too long and the blaze might gutter and die. Let the smoke build too thick and you'll choke on the acrid fumes. You move from hearth to hearth, a silent guardian against the cold. You don't eat until the fires are roaring, and even then it's a quick bite, a crust of bread, a mouthful of ale before you're back at it. You trade weary smiles with the other fire tenders, a small fellowship of the flame. You joke about the time old Thomas singed his eyebrows off trying to light the upper hearth, or about the rumours that the kitchen hearth has a resident spirit who's always hungry for more wood. Historians still puzzle over these kitchen spirits, whether they were real or just the product of too many hours spent in the flickering glow. You like to think there's a little magic in the flames, even if it's just the magic of warmth on a frozen night. As evening falls and the castle gathers around the fires, you stand back and watch your work take life. The flames dance and crackle, sending shadows leaping across the stone walls. The warmth seeps into the air, banishing the cold that lurks in every crack and crevice. You're the quiet architect of this comfort, the hidden hand that keeps the winter at bay. Your tunic smells of smoke and ash, your skin stained with soot that never quite comes clean. But there's a kind of pride in that too, a mark of your place in the castle's secret machinery. Without you, the feasts would freeze, the laughter would falter, and the night would swallow the castle whole. So tonight, as you slip into sleep, let the memory of the fire's glow warm you from the inside out. Let the soft crackle of embers soothe your breath, each flicker a promise that tomorrow you'll rise to coax the flames back to life once more. And in that quiet dance with the fire, you'll keep the castle's heart beating one glowing ember at a time. You've been tending the fires, but now it's time to step into a different kind of warmth, one woven with endless patience and silent determination. You find yourself in the weaving rooms of the castle, where the spinners and weavers work their quiet magic with wool and thread their fingers, dancing over looms that never seem to stop. The room is dimly lit, the air thick with the tang of wool and the soft sigh of spinning wheels. You join the spinners, your hands slipping over the rough fleece, coaxing it into thread with a steady rhythmic twist. There's no glamour here, just the quiet, ceaseless hum of work that turns sheep's wool into cloth for the castle's endless needs. Historians still argue whether these weavers were guild-trained artisans or humble servants pressed into service. Either way, you're here part of the silent army that clothes the lords and ladies in finery, while your own tunic grows thin and threadbare. A quirky tidbit to brighten the evening: some believed that if you sang to the wool, it would spin easier like a lullaby for the fibres themselves. So tonight maybe you hum a soft tune under your breath, the melody mingling with the soft whisper of the spinning wheel. Your fingers ache with the steady motion, the wool biting into your skin with every twist. You pause to rub your knuckles, flexing your cramped fingers, before you move to the loom, a towering frame of wood and thread that hums with quiet power. You slip the shuttle back and forth, the rhythm hypnotic, the cloth growing under your hands like a living thing. Outside, the world bustles with noise nights practicing in the yard, servants clattering in the kitchens, but here there is only the soft, steady heartbeat of the loom. The threads tighten and loosen under your fingers, a delicate balance that requires more patience than most people can imagine. By midday, your back is sore from leaning over the loom, your shoulders knotted with the strain of reaching and pulling. You pause for a sip of water, the jug cold and smooth against your lips before you're back at it again. The cloth must grow, there are tapestries to be woven, tunics to be made, and no end to the castle's need for warm coverings. You share a quiet camaraderie with the other weavers, women and men whose hands are as cracked and stained as your own. You trade jokes about the time the steward ordered a tapestry of a grand battle and forgot the name of the hero halfway through. Historians still puzzle over the accuracy of these tapestries. Were they records of real events or just grand, colourful stories? You smile to yourself as you work, knowing that in the end it doesn't really matter. The stories live in the threads whether they're true or not. As the day fades into the golden glow of evening, you run your hands over the finished cloth, soft, warm and strong. It's not fine silk from the east, or velvet from distant lands, but it's good, honest wool spun and woven by your own hands. It will keep someone warm on a cold night, and that's enough. You stand for a moment, your back to the loom, and let the quiet of the room wash over you. The air smells of wool and wood smoke, and the soft, steady creak of the spinning wheels is a lullaby in itself. Outside the castle feasts and sings, but here there is only the gentle work of turning raw fleece into something whole and useful. So tonight, as you lie down, let the soft touch of wool linger in your dreams. Let the hum of the spinning wheel echo in your breath, a promise that tomorrow you'll rise to weave once more. In the quiet world of wool and thread, you're part of the castle's hidden heart, patient, tireless, and woven into every breath of warmth it holds. You've watched the weavers spin wool into comfort, but tonight you're stepping into a world of potions, poultices, and whispered secrets, the realm of the castle's herbalists and leech keepers. The stone walls echo softly around you as you slip down to the cool, shadowy chambers where these quiet healers ply their trade. You start your day before dawn, the chill of the castle's lower rooms biting at your skin. The herbalist's chamber smells of dried mint and rosemary, a sharp contrast to the sweet rot of crushed petals and damp earth. Rows of clay jars line the shelves, some filled with fragrant herbs, others with mysterious powders that promise healing, or something close to it. Historians still argue whether these healers were truly respected or merely tolerated. Some see them as wise guardians of folk knowledge, while others think they were viewed with suspicion, one step away from witchcraft. You don't have time to wonder tonight. You're too busy picking through dried nettles, weighing out roots, and stirring the bubbling pots that fill the air with pungent steam. A quirky tidbit to lighten the gloom: medieval leech keepers believed that leeches worked better if you spoke kindly to them. Good leech, be gentle, they might whisper, as they coaxed the squirming creatures onto a patient's skin. So tonight maybe you offer a soft word or two to the leeches resting in their damp clay jars just to keep the peace. You work by candlelight, your breath shallow, as you grind herbs with a mortar and pestle. Each crush releases a new scent: sharp lavender, bitter wormwood, the sweet earthiness of crushed rose hips. Your hands are stained green and brown, but you don't mind. There's a strange kind of magic in this work, pulling life and healing from the humble roots and leaves that grow in the castle's hidden gardens. The patients who come to your door are mixed-lot kitchen scullions with burned fingers, knights nursing battle wounds, even the lady of the house herself with a headache from last night's feast. You make teas and tinctures your voice a soft, steady drone that calms the worry in their eyes. You're no miracle worker, but in this cold world of stone and steel, your small comforts mean everything. You share a quiet camaraderie with the other healers, trading knowledge in murmured tones, sharing remedies for coughs and fevers, and laughing softly at the cook's latest request for a love potion. Historians still debate whether these folk cures really worked, or if they were just the medieval version of a placebo. You think it's a little of both belief can be as powerful as any potion. By midday your arms ache from stirring your shoulders tight from the weight of the stone pestle. But you keep going, the rhythm of your work a steady comfort in a world that never stops. You pause for a moment to rub the back of your neck, your fingers stained with the green dust of crushed mint. Before you move to the next task, a poultice for a stable hand's twisted ankle. Outside the castle bustles with noise and laughter, but down here the air is thick with quiet and the faint sweetness of dried chamomile. You're part of the castle's hidden lifeline, the gentle balm against its rough edges. No songs will be sung for you, no feasts held in your honour, but without your quiet work the castle's laughter would fade to coughs and cries. As night falls, you tuck the last of the herbs back into their jars, the flicker of the candles dancing across your tired face. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the gentle weight of sleep tug at you. In the dark you can almost hear the heartbeat of the castle itself, soft, steady and alive. So tonight, as you drift into dreams, let the scent of rosemary and mint soothe you. Let the hush of the herbalist's chamber settle into your breath, a gentle promise that tomorrow you'll rise to heal again. And in the quiet world of roots and leaves, you'll find your place small, steadfast and essential. You've spent the night with healers and potions, but tonight you're back in the corridors of constant errands and quick footsteps. You're one of the castle's page boys, a small figure with a big load, darting through the stone hallways like a messenger hawk who never gets to fly. The castle is already stirring when you rise, the cold seeping through the thin wool of your tunic. You rub the sleep from your eyes and grab the small leather satchel that will carry today's messages, orders and small treasures. A page's job is never done, and you know that from the second you step out into the cold dawn air. Historians still argue whether the life of a page was a noble apprenticeship or just the lowest rung on the castle's endless ladder. Some say it was the first step to knighthood, a chance to learn the ways of courtesy and arms. But you tonight know that most days it just means fetching, carrying and never stopping. A quirky tidbit to keep your spirits up, some pages swore that tucking a sprig of rosemary into their satchel would bring them good luck and help them remember every message. So tonight you slip a sprig in there too, breathing in its sharp, clean scent like a secret strength. You start the day at the Great Hall, carrying the steward's morning orders, a list of tasks longer than your arm. From there you're off to the kitchens to fetch bread for the ladies' breakfast, then to the armoury to deliver a message to the captain of the guard. Each step echoes in the narrow hallways, your feet flying over the worn stone. Your day is a blur of errands, helping the maids lift heavy trays, delivering messages to the Lord's Council, even holding the door for the knights who thunder past in their gleaming armour. You're too small to be noticed, too quick to be caught a shadow slipping through the grand dance of the castle's daily life. But it's not all drudgery. You learn to listen well, to catch the gossip in the kitchens, the whispered plans in the great hall. You're a silent witness to the secret life of the castle, your eyes wide and your ears open, even as your hands are full. By midday your legs are sore from running, your arms aching from carrying trays and messages. You snatch a crust of bread from the kitchen and wolf it down in 3 bites, the warmth of the hearth, a brief welcome hug against the endless cold of the stone halls. You share a grin with the other pages, a small fellowship of quick feet and quick wits. You trade stories of who dropped what, whose message was nearly lost, and who got caught daydreaming by the steward's sharp eyes. Historians still puzzle over whether pages really learned noble arts in this daily grind, or if they were just castle runners in fine tunics. You think maybe it's a bit of both duty and drudgery all tied up in one long sprint. As evening falls, you're still running, still the shadow behind every feast, the small figure who keeps the great wheels turning. The castle doesn't sleep, not really, and neither do you. There's always another message to carry, another tray to balance, another errand to run before the day finally ends. When you finally slip into your small straw bed, the world still echoes in your bones, the clatter of dishes, the clink of armour, the endless hush of voices in the night. But tonight you let it all fade into a soft hum, a lullaby of footsteps and whispered words. So close your eyes and let the soft rustle of the page's errand soothe you. Let the memory of quick footsteps and gentle whispers guide you into dreams, and tomorrow when the castle wakes again, you'll be there ready to run once more, a small shadow with a big heart. The castle never truly sleeps, and neither does the weight of its safety. Tonight you're one of the watchmen pacing the ramparts as the cold wind whips around your shoulders. Up here the world is a blur of moonlight and shadows, and your duty is to see everything, even the things no one else wants to see. You start as the sun dips below the horizon, the towers catching the last light like silent sentinels. You pull your cloak tighter, the rough wool no match for the sharp bite of the wind. Below you the castle settles into its evening rhythm, fires, crackling laughter drifting from the great hall, but up here it's just you, the stones beneath your feet, and the endless dark. Historians still argue whether these watchmen were elite soldiers or just old soldiers past their prime. You don't have time for debates tonight. You're here, and you know that one slip, one missed glimmer of torchlight on steel could mean ruin for everyone asleep behind those thick walls. A quirky tidbit to keep you company. Some watchmen believed that carrying a sprig of yew in their belt would protect them from ghosts and other things that go bump in the night. So tonight maybe you tuck a sprig of yew into your belt just for a little extra courage against the chill and the dark. You walk your post slowly, your boots thumping a steady rhythm on the cold stone. Every breath is a white puff in the moonlight, every shadow a question you have to answer. You pause to lean over the battlements, the world below lit by the faint glow of lanterns and the distant stars. The woods are black and silent, but you know they can hide anything, wolves, bandits, or worse. By midnight your fingers are numb inside your gloves, the cold creeping into your bones. You shift your spear from one hand to the other, trying to keep the blood moving. You stamp your feet softly, not to wake the lord or his lady, but to keep your body from going still. You share nods and murmured jokes with the other watchmen, a quiet fellowship of tired eyes and slow steps. Someone mutters about the time old Hamish saw a fox and nearly raised the alarm, and you grin into the cold night. Historians still puzzle over the old warnings about witches on the wind, and some watchmen still swear they've seen strange lights in the woods. You keep your thoughts to yourself, but you watch the tree line a little more closely all the same. The hours stretch out like the night itself, long, cold and patient. You watch the moon crawl across the sky, each star a cold witness to your lonely vigil. The castle seems to breathe beneath you. The soft rustle of the rushes in the great hall, the slow crackle of fires that you can almost feel even from up here. As dawn begins to creep over the horizon, the first hint of gold touches the towers, and you breathe a sigh of relief. Your watch is nearly done, the castle safe for another night. You pause for a moment, your eyes heavy, and let the first light warm your face. You know that tomorrow night you'll be here again, boots on cold stone eyes, scanning the dark, the silent protector of the castle's dreams. It's a quiet, thankless job, but it's yours. and in the soft hush of the dawn, as the castle stirs awake behind you, you feel the quiet pride of knowing you're part of something that lasts. So tonight, as you drift into sleep, let the memory of the cold air and the steady rhythm of your footsteps soothe you. Let the silent watch of the night fade into the gentle hush of dreams, and tomorrow when the stars rise again, you'll be there watching, still the quiet sentinel against the dark. You've stood your watch on the ramparts, but tonight you're following a different path, one that's as much about patience as it is about skill. You're apprenticing to the castle's falconer, learning the subtle art of training birds that would rather claw your face than bring back your supper. The falconer's mews are tucked away near the edge of the courtyard, where the quiet whir of feathers and the sharp tang of fresh straw fill the air. You slip in at dawn, your breath visible in the cold light as you greet the birds. Peregrines and goshawks watch you with bright, suspicious eyes, each one a little tyrant in feathered form. Historians still argue whether falconry was an elite noble pastime or a vital part of the hunt. But you're too busy tonight to care about debates. You're focused on the careful tasks of the day, cleaning the perches, trimming the jesses, and most of all learning how to keep these fierce hunters from taking a chunk out of your hand. A quirky tidbit to lighten the mood, some falconers believed that feeding a hawk a scrap of bread soaked in wine would keep it calm and loyal. So tonight maybe you slip a crust to one of the more cantankerous birds, hoping it might make your job a little easier, though you suspect these proud predators have never tasted fear, only disdain. The work is quiet but relentless. You cradle each bird on your gloved wrist, feeling the subtle shift of its weight and the soft scrape of talons against leather. You learn to read the flicker of their eyes, the quick dart of their heads, and the slow, steady calm that means they're ready to hunt. The falconer moves around you like a shadow, his voice low and patient. "Watch the Jess," he murmurs. "Feel the balance." You mimic his every move, your own breath held tight as you learn to slip the hood over the bird's fierce gaze and carry it out into the field. By midday your arms ache from holding the birds aloft and your shoulders burn from the weight of the heavy glove. The birds are beautiful and cruel, each one a living blade that must be coaxed to your will. You've already learned that one careless movement can mean blood, yours or theirs. You share a nod with the other apprentices, each of you wrapped in the quiet rhythm of the mews. You trade jokes about the birds' moods, how Sir Geoffrey's prized falcon once turned on his master mid-hunt, or how the kitchen boys swear the birds know exactly when it's feast day and when it's famine. Historians still puzzle over the exact role of falconry in castle life, whether it was a sport of kings or a vital part of the larder's supply. You're too busy tonight to wonder. You're focused on the flick of the leash, the soft jingle of tiny bells, and the sudden breath-stealing moment when the bird launches skyward. As evening settles in, you carry the birds back to the mews, your arm trembling with fatigue. You settle each one on its perch, your breath quiet in the dim light, as you whisper a good night more for your own peace than theirs. The birds shift and settle their sharp eyes, closing in the gloom, each one a tiny dreaming predator. So tonight, as you sink into sleep, let the soft rustle of feathers and the quiet weight of the hawk on your wrist linger in your mind. Let the whisper of wings become the hush of your breath, and dream of the sky wide, endless and free. And tomorrow when the sun rises over the ramparts again, you'll be there ready to stand with the birds once more, patient and sure. The castle's birds have their own fierce elegance, but tonight you're slipping behind the bright tapestry of courtly entertainment. You're with the minstrel's retinue, the group of helpers who make the music happen but never take a bow. The castle's great hall is warm with laughter, and the soft glow of candles, the air scented with roasted meat and spiced wine. The minstrels stand at the centre of it, all tunes weaving through the air like silver threads, but you tonight are in the shadows lugging lutes and tuning harps while the crowd toasts and roars. Historians still argue whether minstrels were wandering celebrities or humble servants, but here in the wings of the performance you know there's no room for grandeur. You're the quiet hand behind the music, the invisible pulse that keeps the songs alive. A quirky tidbit to keep you smiling, some believe that minstrels' instruments had spirits of their own tiny guardians who would sulk if the strings weren't properly tuned. So tonight maybe you whisper an apology to the harp as you adjust its gut strings just in case. You move quickly in the soft gloom, checking the tuning, replacing broken strings, oiling the pipes of the flutes until they gleam under the flickering torches. Your hands move without thought, each motion a practiced ritual, the small acts of care that keep the performance bright and alive. The minstrels nod their thanks as they pass you their eyes glinting with excitement and the faint nerves that come before every song. You smile back, but you know your place. It's here in the quiet margins, listening to the music but never part of it. By midday your shoulders ache from carrying instruments up the winding stairs to the Lord's Solar. Your fingers numb from the fine work of restringing the lutes. You pause to stretch your back, the warm scent of beeswax polish clinging to your tunic as you lean against the cool stone. You trade quiet jests with the other retinue members, half complaints, half laughter about the minstrels who break strings in their eagerness to impress. You share the same tired smiles, the same knowing glances when the music soars and the hall erupts in cheers. Historians still puzzle over how many minstrels were true artists, and how many were just gifted bluffers, those who could charm a crowd with a grin and a snatch of melody. You suspect it was a bit of both. As the day fades into night, the songs begin again, soft ballads of knights and ladies, quick reels that send feet tapping across the rushes. You stand at the edge of the hall, your hands folded, watching the bright faces of the revellers as they lose themselves in the music. You're part of this world, even if no one sees you. The quiet care you take with every bow and string is a gift, the small steadfast labour that makes the music possible. And as the minstrels take their final bow, the echoes of their song lingering in the warm air, you feel a quiet pride. When the last note fades, you gather the instruments once more, careful and sure. You tuck them back into their cases, each one cradled like a sleeping child. You know you'll be back tomorrow, strings to tune, pipes to oil, the silent partner to the music that lifts the castle's heart. So tonight, as you lay your head down, let the memory of those bright fleeting notes carry you into sleep. Let the gentle hum of the lute and the sigh of the flute become the soft breath of your dreams. And tomorrow, when the castle feasts again, you'll be there, quiet, unseen and essential. The minstrel's melodies fade as you slip back to the heart of the castle's grime. Tonight you're joining the scullions, those silent soldiers of the kitchen, whose days are spent ankle-deep in grease and smoke. If you thought the kitchen drudges had it bad, wait until you see what waits down here. The scullery is a world apart from the grand feasts above. It's a low, smoky chamber, where the air hangs thick with steam and the sharp tang of boiling broth. You start before dawn, your tunic already clinging to your back with the damp heat of the hearth. There's no glamour here, just the endless rhythm of scrub, rinse and scrape. Historians still argue whether the scullery was a breeding ground for future cooks or just a punishment for the lower servants. But you're too busy tonight to ponder. Your hands are full of greasy platters, your back bent over barrels of soapy water that never seem to run clean. A quirky tidbit to lighten the moment, some medieval scullions believed that a pinch of salt behind the ear would protect them from burns and scalds, an old kitchen charm passed down in whispers. So tonight maybe you tuck a grain there too, just for luck. You scrub the trenchers, those rough wooden platters that serve as plates for the lords and ladies, until your fingers are red and raw. You dunk them into barrels of cold water that bite at your skin, then scrape them clean with a worn knife that seem more feasts than you could dream of. The air is thick with the hiss of fat hitting hot coals, the low murmur of cooks barking orders you dare not ignore. You move in a careful dance with the other scullions, each of you weaving around the crowded scullery like water finding its way around stone. By midday, your arms ache from hauling water, and your feet are numb from standing on cold, wet flagstones. You snatch a crust of bread when you can, your only respite from the endless press of work. The laughter from the great hall above is a distant echo, a world you might glimpse but never join. You trade half-joking complaints with the others about the cook's temper, about the never-ending pile of greasy trenchers, about the way the soot clings to your skin no matter how you scrub. Historians still debate whether scullions were trained for more, or if they were meant to stay here forever. You suspect it depends on the scullion and whether the castle ever notices the quiet shape of your back bent over the water barrel. As the day fades, you're still at it, your tunic damp, your hands cracked, but your spirit steady. You scrub and scrape, rinse and repeat, because someone has to keep the feast from turning into a foul-smelling ruin. You're the silent line that keeps the castle from sinking into filth, even if no one ever says thank you. When the last trencher is clean, you lean back for a moment, your breath soft in the quiet of the scullery. The water ripples around your hands, the warmth fading with the last scraps of daylight. You stand slowly, your back stiff, and glance at the flickering light of the kitchen hearth. Your world, your burden, and your small victory. So tonight, as you close your eyes, let the soft hush of water and the clink of wooden platters settle in your dreams. Let the quiet rhythm of your endless labour fade into the gentle lull of sleep. And tomorrow, when the castle feasts again, you'll be there ready to scrub away the night's revelry once more. You've trudged through the scullery's soggy floors, but tonight you're heading outside to the walls where stone and sweat mix in equal measure. You're a mason's gopher, one of the young helpers tasked with lugging buckets of lime and hauling stones for repairs that never end. The castle's walls stand tall and proud, but even stone can crack under centuries of cold rain and siege. You start at dawn, your breath clouding in the chill air as you shoulder a bucket nearly as heavy as you are. The mason's yard smells of damp earth and freshly chipped stone, the steady ring of hammers echoing like a heartbeat. Historians still argue whether castles were built to last or meant to be patched up by generation after generation of men like you. You don't have time to wonder tonight, you're too busy trudging up the scaffolding, your arms straining with every step. A quirky tidbit for a moment of levity, some masons believed that if you spit 3 times before lifting a stone, you'd be spared a backache. So tonight you give it a try though, you know it's more of a prayer than a real cure. Your day is a blur of hauling buckets of mortar, thick grey and heavy as sin. The mason above you calls down for more and you pass the bucket up your shoulders, trembling as you fight to keep your balance on the narrow plank. One slip and you're in the mud below if you're lucky, if not you're among the stones. The rhythm of the work is a song of hammer and chisel, the slow patient tap that shapes the castle's skin. You watch the mason's skilled hands, how he finds the grain of the stone, how he fits each piece like a puzzle older than memory itself. You're not shaping the stones tonight, but you're part of the music all the same. By midday your tunic is stained with lime and sweat, your throat raw from breathing in the fine dust that hangs in the air. You pause to drink from a bucket of cold water, the icy bite a small comfort against the ache in your arms. Around you, the walls rise slow and sure, each stone a testament to the work of hands like yours. You share tired jokes with the other gophers, how the mason's dog seems to sleep more than the men do, how the steward will complain if he sees a single stone out of place. Historians still puzzle over whether the gophers learned the mason's art or were just beasts of burden in human skin. You think it's a bit of both hope in every heavy step. As evening settles in, you're still there, your arms trembling as you haul the last bucket up the scaffold. The mason pats your shoulder, a small gesture of thanks that feels like a blessing. The wall stands a little taller, a little stronger, and you're a part of that, even if no one remembers your name. You trudge back down the scaffold, your legs rubbery and your back a dull ache that will follow you into your dreams. But you know that tomorrow you'll be here again, lifting, hauling and piecing together the stones that hold the castle's heart. So tonight, as you sink into your straw bed, let the memory of stone and sky lull you to sleep. Let the soft hush of mortar and the patient tap of the hammer become the rhythm of your breath. And tomorrow, when the sun touches the high towers once more, you'll be there ready to lift each heavy promise one stone at a time. From the cold stones of the castle walls you slip tonight into the flickering glow of laughter and jest. You're the jester's shadow, one of the unseen helpers, who makes sure the fool's tricks are sharper than any sword, even if your own laughter is hollow. The great hall rings with music and mirth, the air thick with the scent of roast goose and sweet wine. The jester capers at the centre of it all, his motley bright in the torchlight, his smile as quick as a fox. But you tonight are the quiet figure just behind him, your hands full of props and small secrets. Historians still argue whether jesters were free to speak their minds or prisoners of their lord's whim, but you're too busy to debate. Your job is to keep the jester's act running smooth, his jokes crisp, his pratfalls as perfect as a courtly bow. A quirky tidbit to keep you grinning: some castle jesters believe that a pinch of salt in their shoes would keep their tongues sharp and their wits even sharper. So tonight, maybe you slip a pinch into your own worn boots, though you know no amount of salt can make the weight of laughter any lighter. You start the evening gathering the jester's small treasures: colourful scarves, carved wooden masks, a small bladder of pig's skin for the slapstick jokes. Each one is a tool in the jester's sly game, and you keep them close, ready to hand over in a heartbeat. The jester winks at you as you pass him a new prop, and you know he trusts you almost as much as he trusts his own quick tongue. By midnight your arms are full of small tasks tending to the jester's costume, slipping new jokes into his ear, keeping a watchful eye for the moment the laughter might turn cold. The court can be a dangerous place, and even the fool must mind the sharpness of the words he tosses around like juggling pins. You share quiet looks with the other servants in the wings, an unspoken understanding of the fine line you all walk. Historians still puzzle over how much power jesters really had, but you know the truth: a joke can be a shield or a blade, and the jester's shadow must learn to keep them both honed. As the night deepens, the jester's laughter weaves through the great hall, each peal a bright thread in the heavy tapestry of courtly life. You stand in the darkness just beyond the glow, your hands never still tending the masks, fetching water, catching the jester's eye when a joke lands too close to the bone. You see the way the lord's laughter fades into a cold smile, and you slip the jester a new line, a small shield of wit to deflect the rising tension. The jester's eyes flash thanks unspoken but understood. You're part of his dance, the silent partner, who keeps the music moving even when the crowd's laughter grows sharp. When the feast finally fades and the great hall falls silent, you gather the jester's battered props, each one a memory of the night's bright spark. Your arms ache with the small weight of them, but you carry them carefully. These are the tools that make the laughter live. So tonight, as you lay down in the quiet of the servants' quarters, let the soft echo of the jester's jokes be your lullaby. Let the bright flash of his motley fade into the gentle hush of sleep, and tomorrow when the laughter rises again, you'll be there ready to be the shadow behind the smile, the silent hand that keeps the laughter alive. From the jester's tricks and quicksilver words, you slip tonight to a quieter corner of the castle, a place where damp linen and fresh air meet in a dance of flapping cloth and silent vigilance. You're one of the laundry sentries standing watch over the drying lines that stretch like spiderwebs between towers and turrets. The dawn is soft as you step out, the sun painting the castle walls in pale gold. Your breath is a thin wisp in the cool air, and the scent of wet linen fills your nose, sharp, clean, and tinged with the faint sweetness of lye. The lines are heavy with the weight of tunics and tablecloths, their pale shapes flapping in the breeze like the ghostly banners of forgotten battles. Historians still argue whether the castle's laundry was truly a central hub of domestic life, or just another afterthought hidden away like an unspoken truth. But you know that without your quiet vigil, the clean sheets and fine linen of the Lord's bedchamber would be nothing more than sodden rags. A quirky tidbit to keep you smiling, some laundry sentries swore that whistling a tune while hanging the linen would keep away mischievous spirits, or at least the crows that love to steal a scrap of cloth for their nests. So tonight maybe you whistle softly the tune twining through the crisp morning air. You move along the lines, your fingers red and raw from the cold, your eyes always scanning the sky. Rain is your enemy tonight, a sudden downpour that would undo a whole day's work in an instant. You watch the clouds as they shift and swell the castle's towers, casting long shadows over your small flapping kingdom. By midday the linen is dry, but the wind has turned snapping the sheets like whips against your face. You blink into the bright air, your hands steady as you unclip each cloth and fold it into neat, quiet bundles. The clean scent of the linen soothes your mind even as your arms ache from the weight of the wet cloth. You share small smiles and half-whispered jokes with the other sentries about the cook's apron that never seems to stay white, or the steward's endless complaints about the faded tablecloths. Historians still puzzle over whether these small details were ever noticed by the lords and ladies above. You suspect that no one really sees the laundry except you. As evening comes, the sky streaked with pink and the last sheets folded tight, you pause for a moment to breathe in the cool air. The lines are empty now, the wind sighing through the ropes like a soft lullaby. You know that tomorrow there will be more tunics stained with wine sheets heavy with the scent of sweat and dreams, but tonight the lines stand quiet and clean. You walk back through the castle gates, your arms full of fresh linen and the scent of the sky clinging to your tunic. You're not part of the feasts or the songs, but your work weaves through every corner of the castle's life, soft and silent, but stronger than any song. So tonight, as you sink into your bed, let the hush of the wind through the drying lines be your lullaby. Let the clean scent of fresh linen fade into the gentle rhythm of your breath. And tomorrow, when the dawn breaks again over the towers, you'll be there ready to stand watch once more, a silent sentinel of warmth and comfort. You've spent your nights with sentries and shadows, but tonight you're stepping into the quiet world behind every noble lady's gentle smile. You're the lady's maid, a figure in the background unseen but always present the silent caretaker of every curl and crease. You begin before dawn, your feet already sore from yesterday's steps as you move through the castle's twisting corridors. The lady's chamber is a soft glow in the half-light tapestries, muting the early chill. You slip in without a sound, your breath a small quiet presence as you lay out the fine linen and silken gowns. Historians still argue whether these maids were trusted confidants, or just another pair of silent hands in a world of luxury. But tonight you're too busy to ponder, your fingers are deft as you lace the stays and smooth the skirts, your mind focused on the small unseen details that no one else notices. A quirky tidbit to bring a smile, some maids believed that if they tied a small silver coin into the lady's garter, it would keep her luck sweet and her suitors sweeter. So tonight you slip a tiny coin into the hem of her gown, a small secret between you and the day. You help her dress your fingers, sure as you pin the fine cloth in place. The weight of velvet and pearls is nothing to her, but your arms tremble from the effort. You comb her hair until it shines your hands gentle, your touch light. You're the keeper of her secrets, the one who sees her tears when the court's laughter fades. By midday you're still at her side, running errands, fetching ribbons, mending the small tears that life in a castle always brings. You move like a shadow, your steps silent on the cold stone, your breath a quiet song that no one else hears. You learn to read her face like the pages of a book, each sigh, each small smile, a chapter in a story that belongs only to you. You share small glances with the other maids, the quiet knowledge of those who see what the world never does. Historians still puzzle over the true power of these maids, whether they were only servants or the keepers of 1,000 tiny truths. You suspect it's both. You hold her world in your hands, even if she never says it aloud. As evening falls, you help her undress, your hands careful as you loosen each ribbon and unlace each hidden knot. She sighs as the weight of the day slips from her shoulders, and you feel a small quiet pride in the soft curve of her smile. You tuck her into bed, the flicker of the candlelight painting her face in warm gold, and you stand for a moment in the hush of the room, the keeper of her dreams. When the castle sleeps, you slip back through the dark corridors, your own bed, a small haven in the servants' hall. Your arms are heavy with the day's work, but your heart is light, because in the soft world of silk and sighs, you're more than just a maid. You're the unseen hand that keeps the lady's world bright. So tonight, as you close your eyes, let the soft rustle of silk and the quiet breath of the castle lull you into sleep. Let the memory of gentle hands and whispered secrets drift into the gentle hush of dreams. And tomorrow, when the sun rises over the castle once more, you'll be there ready to serve in the quiet dawn, unseen but essential, the soft heart of the castle's beauty. And now, as our long journey through these thankless medieval tasks comes to a gentle close, let your breath soften. Each inhale, slow and quiet, each exhale a gentle sigh. Feel the weight of those long days, the ache of shoulders, the hush of linen, the flicker of torchlight, fade softly into the warm dark. You're wrapped in the quiet rhythm of centuries past, the steady beat of work that never ends, but in this moment you're safe. Let the hush of the castle's stone walls cradle you, each whisper of history a soft promise of rest. Outside, the night sighs low against the high towers, the moon's pale light slipping through arrow slits and over ancient stone. You're part of that quiet world now, each breath a small echo of the lives you've seen, humble, patient, unseen, but never forgotten. So let the soft memories of spinners' hums, the flicker of the kitchen's hearth, the hush of the lady's chamber weave into your dreams. Let the long shadows of history become the soft cradle that rocks you to sleep, and know that in this ancient, endless world, you've found a small, warm space to rest. Sleep well and sweet dreams.